Great. I think causal mindset is an excellent name. I really like it. And just to let the audience know that you have been a guest lecturer to our causality courses, at least two times already. And most of the participants already love you. And I think the fundamental question they always ask is, "Hey, how do I explain causality to my CEO or CMO?" Right? So, how would you explain what is causality to the general audience, the layman?
Mhm. So I have usually stories for everyone, for each different person and post, with something that might click. And usually I like to first start with a conversation with the person to understand what are the causal questions they are asking. They didn't realize maybe it was causal. And then I can frame this. But long story short, usually I always take the following example in my talks. The most basic one that usually speaks for everyone is the following. Is let's say, Venkat, that before this podcast, or let's do it with the audience. Let's say you want to listen to this podcast, but you have a headache and you really plans to listen to this podcast. So you wait a bit and you still have your headache. So after a while, you decide to walk, to drink some tea, to get some rest, and it's still there. So you decide to take a pill. And after a while, you start listening to the podcast and you realize that your headache is gone. But then, if you're like me, or probably like Venkat, you start frowning and thinking, but was it really the pill? Or was it because I drank tea or plenty of fluids, or just because time went by? The thing is, you'll never know, right? You'll never know for sure what was the cause that solved this issue. Because all of these factors are confounded, they are mixed together. And the only way to perfectly answer this question will be to have parallel worlds. In one of the two worlds, you take the pill, in the other, you don't. And as we don't have parallel worlds, we have to basically emulate this or try to get as close as possible to this parallel world story. And that's the whole concept of causal inference. Basically, so that's one thing, is to really explain causal inference with a simple example, helping people to realize that everything is multifactorial. And basically, the goal, if you want to assess a causal effect, is to separate all these different effects to pin down one specific effect. That's one kind of example. If it's in marketing, usually, honestly, it's the standard things. I will be like, usually you increase your spending when you have a higher demand. It can follow seasonality. It can follow some events, some sports events. So you sell football jersey and you spend more on ads closer to some major tournament. If you don't take into account these external factors, this seasonality, the competition, other factors, what we call confounder, technically speaking, basically you will overestimate the effect of your campaign because you spend more when the demand is higher. And then basically it leads to miscalculation, to biased estimation and misallocation of the budget. So how do you know? And that's a typical example. So in marketing, it could be about causes. You had a bad quarter. Was it strategic decision? What is the weather? How do you disentangle potential causes? You need causal inference to do so. So I have many examples, but these are a few angles that I typically take.
No, that was a great one.